Hi everyone, welcome back. This is episode 7. Today we are joined by Avissruti Banerji. We would be talking to her about spirituality, creativity, and a lot more things. Before we begin the episode, I want to thank Avissruti for being with us today. We are super happy, and Harini can vouch for this. That's why I was so excited once even she was as excited, but we were like super happy that finally after so long we'll be able to. I actually never had like an in-person chat with
We've
you
never,
before.
really, and I've also
yeah.
very briefly had a conversation with Harini, I think once, that too in a very informal setting of a club, I think.
I want to go back and start with one of my earliest memories, or rather like a very strong memory of you that I've had is I just started doing YouTube in my first year, and I had uploaded a video which was a bit different from what I usually did. And it was a bit out there, wherein the video was types of people at NIFT. And I was so nervous to even talk about it that I had just put up a story, and it was just text saying that, hey guys, I uploaded a new video. She replied to that, to just that text. And she's like, oh, I liked it. So, I was so happy to read that. So that's like my first memory of you. So moving ahead.
My initial memories of Avissruti have always been her looking at me, breaking out into something in Bengali, and then realizing after a few seconds in that I'm not actually Bengali.
Yeah. It's a very strong memory that's coming back because for some reason Harini also had very Bengali eyes. So I used to always think she's Bengali. So I would always naturally be drawn to speak to her in Bengali. Always. I remember this from the very start. Anytime I see her anyway, it's like just spit out some Bengali and then realizing that she's from the other end of the country. Yes. Apologies.
With Harini, that happens a lot, wherein people assume very interesting things about her. So some people just came to her and went like, oh, so you have a degree in English literature, right?
Of course. I see that.
So, well, moving ahead. So I wanted to introduce our listeners to you as well a bit better. So for us, we know you as our senior, someone who later chose a deeply unconventional path by placing spirituality at the heart of it. We've also seen glimpses of you as an artist, a traveler, a designer. But beyond all these identities, if I were to simply ask you, how does Avissruti see herself? What would you say?
That is the question that I think where I am in my life right now. All of those decisions, successive decisions have also been taken because of that particular question that kept on echoing in my mind over and over again that, okay, initially when I was taking on to this particular path as well, and my parents happened to ask me this question that, currently I'm 25, I'm 24, I'm turning 25 in another month. And this is back, my journey started when I was sort of like 22. So they kept on asking me these questions that why now? Why at this stage in your life? Okay, people take to spirituality, people take to an alternate style of life, but at a sort of like a later stage in their life. Not later as in like 40s or 50s, but when they've lived a sufficient bit of their life, when they've sort of exhausted all sort of possibilities of entertainment, excitement, possibilities. I'm saying particular possibilities that you explore that, okay, this could be a new venture. When they've exhausted all those possibilities, realize it is futile. So realize it's sort of futile in many ways, and then they sort of look this way. So why now? And I ask them the same question that you realize you're saying that these possibilities are futile, that these sort of sources of joy that you're looking for, trying to draw some joy out of it, it gives you joy very momentarily or whatever. Like these are still like the other things. For me, this particular question about like, okay, I've done certain things in my life. I've seen people around me all the time. You don't need to make certain mistakes to be realizing those are mistakes. And I'm not calling them mistakes. Even to go through certain experiences over an elongated period of time. To be like, okay, I see you've gone through a certain period of life. And I've seen this with most people. They are like, okay, we'll get that new job. That new job will make me happy. After they've landed that new job, then they're like, okay, let me get to this next promotion. Or like, let me get to getting that house. Or let me get to getting that next big next big promotion, next house, and then realizing, okay, this is still not giving me fulfillment. And for me, what happened is I started working at a very young age in my life. I started working when I was like 7 years old because I used to do TV serials in Kolkata. I used to be a child actor.
Okay.
Growing up in that environment, it used to be a very interesting environment also. Why interesting? It's because at that stage in your life, you sort of don't understand what is happening, right? Your consciousness has not fully formed in many ways. So when I'm living two lives simultaneously, it's one life that from after school, I go to the set directly. So I used to go to my school. Right after my school, I used to be on a film set. On a film set, I'm learning and studying my script, which I have to go perform. After I learn my script, I come back, I have to learn my studies because I'm also doing school. So for me, everything's like, okay, just memorize this, go perform it. Then you go back home and you're living at home for a very brief period of time. Then 90% of the times I'm spending with adults. Why this is also very interesting is because when I'm spending time with these particular adults, there are people who are play acting my parents, right? Now they're play acting my parents. Off the screen, they are sort of people who absolutely despise each other. They can't tolerate each other's guts. But as soon as they call like action, they're suddenly like pretending to be like all loving towards each other. And sort of like the dynamics of human emotions and human relationships became very apparent all of a sudden. That what is happening, what's going on. Like this is one big script where people are just play acting, and then you go back home and you see certain situations and you start of not disconnect, but start feeling like, okay, what is real then? Is this like another script that I'm just trying to play a part of? Because it felt like that. Even when sort of like, say, small tragedies befell upon us, it was never very serious or big in my mind, because there was always a certain not a disconnect, there was always a certain distance that, okay, this is just another script. There's no seriousness to it. So it kept on unfolding in many ways. These questions kept on coming in terms of, okay, one day I was born, I worked for like a few number of years, and then one day this is all over, I die, poof, gone. This can't be it, right? This just this much can't be it. There has to be more to this than life. And then there came a particular stage of life, I think for most of us, when like COVID hit, when lockdown happened, when you're sort of enclosed in your homes and you've possibly tried everything that exploratively, I'm trying everything in terms of engaging my mind in many, many different ways. But I'm like, this is very like, it's short term. It does not keep you there. What is it? What is it? And to the point where I was frustrated that if this is it, I don't want it. It was an ultimatum that I'd set with myself also, that if this is it, if this is all to life, then I don't know. I don't want all of this. And then is when things started changing very rapidly. Very, very rapidly. Like a lot that I couldn't even imagine happened, because I had not even grown up in a certain sort of a background where spirituality was not even a conversation at home, where I've seen a lot of people, a lot of the children grow up with some sort of like rituals at home or a certain introduction to religion. I'm saying religion because like that is our idea of initial basic idea of like, say, spirituality or seeking in one way, right? So I had no introduction of that also. So when I stepped onto this life, it was suddenly like a very big, I don't understand that anything beyond what my normal scape of understanding was also existed. And then there was no stopping. Then there was like one thing after the other. It kept on following.
To prod you a little bit more,
Yeah.
What exactly brought about your journey to NIFT? Like you did elaborate a bit about your life before, let's say, design college. But what brought you to design college, and why design, or why art? Congruent or incongruent was it with what you thought you would become as a child? Like, what did you dream of becoming as a child? And how distant or how close or how has that dream transformed now?
Right. If I have to be fully 100% transparent with you, NIFT was never a part of the plan.
Okay.
Mumbai was.
All right.
I had an incredible longing for Mumbai because I used to visit Mumbai because some of my relatives used to stay here. I had an incredible longing to be in Mumbai because this is one place that I came also, and I felt like, what is this? I had an infatuation with Mumbai. I don't know how to explain this. Like how a lot of people do, I had that same infatuation with Mumbai. That I used to love the way people work here. Just in terms of people. सब में ना ऐसे एक अलग सा wait, I'm just shifting to Hindi because I'm in Mumbai
That's
right now.
ambition.
Yeah, there was a junoon in everybody. There was a certain kind of passion everybody had. That okay, fair. Like here, somebody's come to accomplish. They're like, okay, they're not. What is the word? They're not lazy with life. It's not placid. I don't know if that would be the right word for this situation. They're not living for the sake of living. They're like, okay, I want to do a little more. I want to go beyond. See, that also, that's a contrast that happens in Mumbai, because people have come here somewhere to go beyond their state of survival. They're like, okay, we can survive anywhere, but I'm coming here to sort of take it into one more step where I want to see what's beyond survival. But the way the city and everything is constructed, now I feel like some people again fall back into the same zone of survival only at the end of the day. But I like that. Like everybody who I interacted with here also had that some like kuch to karna hai, kuch to aise, like we want to do something about our lives. So Mumbai was sort of a part of the plan, and I also was working in the film industry for a very long period of my life, right? I was working, like I've grown up on sets entirely from the time when I was in class 2 till when I was in class 10, which is about like oddly 8 years that I've grown up on a set. So I wanted to be a part of this particular industry. Again, I really like the film industry in terms of, yes, there are all sorts of people everywhere, but that is also where almost hundreds of people come together to make one vision happen. Like, okay, the director has one idea. All of us will sit together, work on making this particular one vision happen. Doesn't matter what, but people really throw themselves into it. Like you see from the person who is working on the light to working on the sound, they're waking up at odd hours, doing crazy shifts. Doesn't matter, because everybody's so passionate about that one project that everybody's throwing themselves into it. They don't care about the time. They don't care about when they are getting the food. If they're treated well, everybody throws themselves into it. Now the thing is, I've also grown up with a heavy background and influence of art, because my father is an artist and my grandfather is also from an artist, and they come from Shantiniketan, the land of Rabindranath Tagore. So I have grown up with the influence of that particular like Baul culture, the culture of like just art, music, everything. I've just grown up in my dad's studio, where one place there was just like art happening. So he had a big studio. There was art happening at one place. There was music happening in one place. There was dance happening in another room. There was elocution happening in another room. A lot of people don't even know what elocution is. Like I've grown up with that in terms of like people are just teaching you how to speak properly, recite poems and verses, like cultures like that. So I had a heavy influence of like art and culture just growing up. Now growing up again, I think I just took to, and I think my mom has a very good sense of aesthetics. Just really good sense of aesthetics. So I also always used to observe her, what she used to wear, how she used to carry herself. Just very basic things also, you know, just something that my mom, every morning, she leaves for work at like 6 o'clock, she's leaving for work. But before work, she's decked up every day, like everything is in place in terms of her earring, to her bangles, to what she's putting. And there's a certain presence always. And, you know, she used to always tell me that no matter what is going on in your life, you should keep yourself in a certain way that doesn't matter. Like even what you put on your body, how you hold yourself, how you dress up is a way that doesn't matter what's going on in your mind. That should not reflect outside. You still carry yourself the way, because you're presenting yourself to the world. Every new day you're taking on the world. So it doesn't matter. The rest of it doesn't matter. So these small influences I grew up with. And when basically choosing NIFT, it came at a certain point that this is something that I'm inclined towards. I don't know yet. This is something that I'm inclined towards. This seems interesting. This seems like a space where I can sort of use my sense of aesthetics, my other creative influences. Again, garments is something I'm interested in, not passionate about. That is why, again, the whole NIFT contradiction happened when I ended up in NIFT, is everything seemed nice. And most importantly, Mumbai. Like my whole thing was I was just visualizing being in Mumbai. It's like, let's apply for NIFT. And then NIFT happened. NIFT Mumbai happened. I don't know how it happened, because I was not prepared for the entrance exam. I was not prepared for anything. And somehow yet it happened, because I think it had to happen.
How was your experience here at NIFT? What did you learn? What was very striking? And what did you take from it?
Honestly, my biggest takeaway from NIFT, more than college or anything, is other people.
Right.
The sort of friends that I made in college, I think many people distinctly come to my mind. My whole worldview changed. Again, because I was living in the hostel. So for the first time, I was sharing a room with another individual. I was sharing like space. So it was like community living for the first time. And the way I've grown up is I've grown up in a nuclear family. A lot of the time, both my parents were working, I was working. So I was used to spending a lot of time by myself. Then suddenly moving to a space in the hostel where there was a lot of people constantly. And you know, one very distinct thing which happened in my hostel was I never enjoyed, again, this was a single, very, very acutely framed single child problem, which is I never liked eating with anybody. In terms of, I liked eating by myself. You know how earlier those days, I'm like, I will nicely open my laptop, have my food ready, make this comfortable setting. There will be nobody to disturb me, nobody to pry on my food. I will comfortably enjoy my food. Then came a time when hostel 3 people are eating, nobody has a sense of privacy. Somebody is like, before my plate has opened, their plate is open, but half of my food has gone to their plate. And I was like, what is happening? Eat your food. You've also gotten your food. Come on. Why are you touching my food? Have your own food. But things like that started happening. Problems like this. Like, within no time, I don't even think it took an entire month before I realized that no, I don't want to eat alone. I have people around me who I can share. Like, the food started tasting bad when I'm eating by myself. Like, I wanted to sit with those people and eat. Like, until and unless, what's the point of eating alone? Like, the food didn't even taste great when I was eating alone. I was like, okay, 3 लोग ऐसे साथ में मिलके खाएंगे, फिर ऐसे मजा आ रहा है. And those things, and I think it was a very big shift for me, like how people even cared for each other. Just very simple things like, okay, you're away from home, I'm also away from home, I am looking out for you. Like, no matter what, you are never alone. There were people who not only looked out for me, but so deeply cared about me that I didn't even know that one can even, like, watch out or look out for another individual like that. I think I really learned friendship when I was in NIFT more than anything, and I think that was one of my biggest takeaways from NIFT. Then apart from that, of course, college was great fun. It's like, it's a completely different world. So like, all of you will understand. If you've not been in NIFT, you do not know what is happening in that place. It's a crazy place. There is no other place in the world like NIFT, truly.
It's its own world.
Like, I don't know what is NIFT. Like, I don't understand what that place is, what is happening. Everybody's a character on their own. Every single individual is a character. It's just, it's a child's dream. It's a child's absolute dream. You do whatever, you wear whatever, you do whatever, man. Nobody cares. You do whatever. You submit your assignments on time. You show up. You have your 70% attendance. फिर तुम जो भी करो, doesn't matter.
It's a controlled crazy. I don't even want to say crazy. It's like, generally creative people are sort of outliers, right?
Exactly.
And then you're like, सारे outliers को एक ही जगह पे डालते हैं और देखते हैं क्या होता है. And now it's just a group of really, really weird, mad, eccentric, very unique, very, very distinct people all coming together. And despite our, let's say, differences, we all have very, very strong similarities. And I think that is very deeply ingrained. And that in and of itself is, let's say, a very unmanifested spiritual inclination as well.
So I want to go back a bit wherein you said your dad is an artist and you grew up in a very creative environment, right? And you also mentioned while you were on the set, you always wondered about if this is a script and there should be something beyond that. So would you say your creative practice was something that laid the very initial seeds of your spiritual inclinations, or would you trace it to some other roots?
See, that's why I said that when in 2022 sort of like that shift was happening, it was very sudden because I have never sort of made that. For me, nothing was ever spiritual, or this particular thing that what is being spiritual or what is being meditative, it was not a thing. So there was no correlation as such. Why I took to painting was again just it was a natural cause of the surrounding that I was growing up in. I saw my father painting constantly. I saw there was painting happening at my house. There were people who were coming to learn. So I was just learning it. It was just something that I was taking interest in. It was not also something that I was just doing that, okay, this is giving me great joy or this is making me feel a certain way. No, because it doesn't happen like that. When you're initially learning something, when you're laying down the foundation or basics for something, it's not that enjoyable of a process, because that is when you're sort of learning, you're setting the foundation. When you're setting the foundation, you're just building it brick by brick. It's not an enjoyable process. Once you've laid the foundation, when you're standing on it, then you're like, okay, there are so many possibilities now. Then you can be like, okay, I can start my seeking, I can start my this, okay, this can be meditative process. As a child, I think those 12 or 15 years of that was a learning process. There was nothing spiritual in it, nothing whatsoever. It was somebody is asking me to draw this, it looks rather boring that I have to draw the same thing again. I'm drawing that same figure again. I'm learning how to draw the hand. I'm learning how to like mix one pastel color with another, how to do the blending. It seems more like it's more laborious than enjoyable. There's nothing spiritual about it, or nothing that was spiritual. But then later on, when I grew when I reached a stage where I was like, okay, now I know the basics. Now I can start experimenting with it. And when I did start experimenting with it, then I realized that, okay, still now also, I spend a lot of my time painting, especially if I'm painting, I know my days have gone for a toss because I'll wake up at like 7, 8 in the morning. I'll sit down with my canvas. I'll sit down with my book. Maybe I'll get up twice for like bathroom break and lunch break, dinner break, whatever. And then again, I'm getting up at like 2, 3 at night. So those like 14 hours I'm painting non-stop. Non-stop I'm painting. So now I've realized that it's an extremely meditative process. Anything that you can completely throw yourself into and completely get yourself involved with it, that activity can become transformative in itself. I used to see my father actually whenever he would be making some canvases. So imagine he's making a canvas here and I'm standing right beside him and I'm like, Baba, I'm calling out to him. He was not able to hear me. I thought he has a hearing problem. I really used to think he has a hearing problem until we realized he doesn't. He is so absorbed in his work that I don't know what, there is some sort of unison which is happening there. He is not separate from that anymore. He is not living in this particular life. He is there. I'm standing right beside him. Like, he's had stories where he's making a canvas here and there's somebody who's come and stolen his phone, which was kept right beside him, right in front of him, because he doesn't know what is happening. And this has not happened once. This has happened on 1 week. We get a call, his phone has been stolen. The next week, the same person has realized my father doesn't realize. He's gotten a new phone. A new phone has been stolen the exact same way. That is how, that sort of drawing power it has. And I don't think I've reached where he has reached with his art, because it's really something else. But now I feel that, I don't know if seeds were, see, I feel like all of these seeds are also always planted at a stage where you don't understand. You just have to keep on doing the laborious work also. You know, there's something which Sadhguru also says, which I always find very interesting, that when you plant like a flower in the garden, you don't plant the seed and do like flower meditation around it. You're not like sitting there and thinking about flowers. No, you have to just go there, put like the water on it. You have to go, you know, see if the soil's right. You have to put the dirty things in it. You have to put shit in it to make sure it grows. You can't be sitting there and being like, okay, manifesting flowers. No, you have to do the ground, like, you know, the work that needs to be done. And then there's sunlight, of course. There's grace, which does its own work and takes its own course. So that's that.
So yes, speaking of Sadhguru, how exactly did your journey with Isha begin? Was it like a chance encounter? Was it something you actively sought? Like, do you actively think that, yes, this is something that I want to try. Nothing is working out. I want to go here. And it's because I would love to know about your earliest memories that led to Isha, because we'd really like to understand what was it that made you feel like you have a sense of trust or alignment with the path that they offer in particular when you approach spirituality.
Right. So this initially started, I think, for a lot of people that I see in Isha, also for a lot of them, it started during COVID itself, because you're sort of locked up, right? Your senses are not being, your energy is not being dissipated in 10,000 other places. You finally sat down. For once, you've at least sat down with your own thoughts and contemplated that question also, that what is life all about? Because you have nothing else to do. And when you really have nothing else to do, that is when you're sort of sitting with the question also for the first time. Otherwise, there are 10,000 ways to distract yourself and get yourself entertained with like small pleasures. So at that particular stage in my life, you know, that particular question started occurring again and again and again, that, okay, but this can't be it in terms of, you know, I'm doing this, I will get that next job. It was all in my mind, because I saw other people also, all in my mind in terms of, okay, if that next thing happens, in terms of getting that job, if I land that thing. And I worked a particular job also that time, and I did it, and I earned a great sum of money in a very short period of time. And I looked at that money and I was just confused that I bought like 2-3 things. I bought like 2-3 pairs of shoes, and I'm like, now what? I have my basic needs are fulfilled, right? You know, all my the things, what happens a lot, you know, in psychology, I'm forgetting, what is that pyramid that we often study? One of your psychology students.
Maslow's
hierarchy of needs.
Hierarchy of needs.
So like your basic, your survival needs, your social needs, then your social self-esteem needs, and your this, and then at the end, your self-actualization needs. And you know, one day I was really studying those needs. I was like, you know, the kind, and I'm saying this again with complete humility as much as I can, in terms of, for most of us, even to be able to sit here and do this conversation, that means is most of our needs are fulfilled. In terms of our basic needs, our social needs, our this needs are fulfilled. After all those needs are fulfilled, again we go into the same cycle of trying to fulfill the same needs for us once again, and we expect different results. We expect like, okay, we will, yes, you already lived in a good house probably, of course, many different, you already had that house, you already had that food, you already had a friend circle, you had all of those things, you derived a certain level of joy. Now you want to rebuild those things once again, spend the next 50 years of your life building that new house again and expecting to get happy in a different way. You're expecting new kind of joy. No, it's going to be the same kind of joy with a different setting. You're expecting something new, but it's no, your needs have already been fulfilled in one way or the other. Everybody is essentially looking for self-actualization needs, which everybody gets at the very end after all these needs are satisfied to some extent. So when this particular question kept on coming, that I'm pretty happy at my home. I have a good, I'm communicating with the people, I'm happy with all of these things. Then what am I really looking for? This kept on, again, it's like you can't be frivolous with this question. And I really feel that once this question becomes like a really burning question within you, that, okay, what is going on? Like, what is happening? Why all of this is happening? One day we are suddenly born out of nowhere, like I've suddenly entered somebody's womb, and then one day I pop out. Then I live like I don't know how many odd years, and then one day I pop off again. Why am I doing all of this? And it's not a frivolous question. It can't be just as a joke. It can't be just a conversational thing. When you sit with yourself really with this question that, okay, what's going on? Then I feel it's always, everything's all around. It's again a matter of like paying attention. You know, this again actually a very important thing that I will draw a parallel with my painting. Often at times when I'm painting something and I'm not being able to get that one thing right. Often at times it happens when I'm drawing a lot of portraits, especially I make a lot of Sadhguru's paintings. And the thing is, I have to get that face right. At night I'm sitting and I'm trying to get his face right and I'm not being able to get it right. And I've drawn his eyes and I'm like, why is it not happening? Why is it not coming? And then suddenly I'm like, no, this eye has to be just a centimeter away. And then it's there. Of course, it's not there to its entirety. It will keep on enhancing itself as I practice. But what did I do? I sat there and I paid attention. I really paid attention as to why it was not happening. Just paying attention and paying attention over and over again. I think that is where it started, where that question really started. It was not like, okay, morning I had this question and then gone. I was just sitting with the question that, okay, what's happening? I want to know. I want to close my eyes and sit down. I want to close my eyes and sit down and to see what is going on within this particular mind of mine that I've never paid attention to. I've never sat down and closed my eyes till then. So one day I just randomly decided, I remember this very distinctly because it's almost like a starting point in my life where I've felt like, you know how you want to take a really bad shit and you're not being able to take a shit, like you're waiting for really long. And it felt like that. It felt like that for the first time where I just sat, I closed my eyes, I'm like, this is what I needed? Like this feels right for some reason. And I remember that day happened to be Guru Purnima. Like Guru Purnima is a very significant day for all of like us and like all spiritual seekers. And very later on I realized for the first time when I truly sat with myself and closed my eyes, it was Guru Purnima. And that particular incident happened where I sort of for the first time sat down with my eyes closed. And then what happened is a series, and I was reading a lot of his books. I started reading a lot of his books. I think the usual platform, I was consuming a lot of him on YouTube. Like every single question that I had, there was some answer to it. An answer that I also found very logical, which was not in a way that, okay, this is what I'm telling you. This is the way it is. You have to trust it. No, it was like absolute hardcore logic, which like you can't deny. Because he not only gives you the logic, he gives you more questions that why did you never ponder about these particular questions? You're asking these questions. How come all your life you've not pondered about these questions and the things that you've been told all your life? Why aren't you questioning the people who have told you these things? Because they also don't have the answers. In truth, in reality, nobody has the answers to anything, but everybody has a ready-made set answer for you just to solace you. And for the first time there, I saw a man who was like, I am not here to give you solace you. I'm here to give you solutions. I'm here to give you tools. But again, this is somebody, I'm like, okay, I'm interested. I am interested. Let me see. I have nothing to lose here in terms of like, I'm like, I have nothing to lose here. Let's just explore. And so there was during lockdown, he used to Sadhguru used to do these particular sessions called full moon flirtation. So every Purnami, which used to happen, on that particular Purnami, he used to have a satsang where he would address also the kind of situation that was happening outside in the world, like how, because a lot of people were battling many things, right? A lot of people were losing their family members, just to speak to address those situations. And in the very end, he would do a certain meditation, which was focused on specific, certain visualization, certain specific things. So what happened is every month I used to tune in, watch these and experience the meditation. So what started happening is when you're in with 10 people going through a certain process, there are heightened emotions, there's a certain ambience, there are many things that are happening, right? Someone's screaming, somebody is experiencing something. That can often also induce something within you. That can also, elicit a certain response or an emotion from you. But when you're sitting entirely by yourself at home, there's nobody around. You're just sitting with your laptop in a room that you grow, like you sleep in, you eat in, all of those things. You're not experiencing the ambience differently. It's just the same. So my laptop's there and I'm going through a certain meditation and very strange things started happening. Not only in my mind, but physiologically I'm experiencing certain things where I'm experiencing this like absolute rush of an energy that I've never experienced before, where my spine is trembling and I don't understand why that is happening. There is nobody saying anything or doing anything. I'm just watching an online thing which is happening live. And I'm just going through a certain visualization. And just with a clap of that man's hand, I am going through these emotions and my spine is trembling. That is where I took back. I'm like, okay, this is something beyond my understanding. Again, like he says, like your logic is this much. The universe is boundless. You can't fit the universe into your logic. You have to fit yourself into the universe. You can't expect the universe, the mighty universe, to fit into your logic. Because your logic understands this much. Truth be told, you don't even understand how you're born. And you're trying to understand the universe and logic. You're trying to put everything in a logical frame. You don't even know how you entered your mother's womb. Suddenly you were born, yes, but you don't know where you came from, where this life entered your mother's womb, and you're trying to be so correct about things and being like this and that. And that's it. That was my moment that, okay, this is it. This is something that I wish to go on and explore more. So I did inner engineering, which is like the first sort of course that I did. I went through it. It was good. It was like nothing very dramatic happened. It was good. There were certain tools. There's a certain process that we have to do. It's a 21-minute practice that we do called Shambhavi Mahamudra Kriya. That is what I started with. Again, as soon as I started it, then again, dramatic things started happening. Dramatic things as in things in life started changing very rapidly. And that time also I'd shifted to Mumbai, and little by little I started habits that I had picked up started falling off very naturally. Those things didn't interest me anymore. Certain indulgences that I like to indulge myself in, and those things I was like, okay, what will I do with that one particular beverage? I'm not enjoying the beverage as much as I was enjoying the beverage. Why? Why am I not enjoying the beverage? Why am I not...
how diplomatic you are right now. That particular...
Yeah.
What's the word? Beverage.
Yeah. That strong aroma of lemongrass that plays the ambience, and it's just, why is it not, tickling my interests anymore? Just simply not for once is this individual that I'm considering my teacher, master, whatever, he has not even for once tell me drop any of these things. He's like, you continue. Because he still says that the person who goes to the bar and the person who's going to the temple are essentially looking for the same thing. They're essentially looking for the same thing. In one way or the other, they're trying to enhance themselves. They're like, okay, this is my normal way of living. I'm not enjoying this. I want something more. One person is trying to seek it out of alcohol, that, okay, if I consume that, then I will feel a little more than I'm feeling in my normal life. The person who's essentially also going to the temple is also being like, okay, I'm living this life, but I want something more. I don't know what that more is, but I'm asking. Maybe getting me that next job will help me, or getting that next paycheck will help me. They're trying to enhance their experience a little more. Everybody's trying to enhance that with different methods. But then you realize that these methods, that these small methods that you're using is very short-lived. You get there, but you're not able to stay there. You crash even further than you started off with. And how long would it do? It's taking a direct hit on your health. These things by itself started. If that is what I've realized also. I've also grown up in a family where nobody ever told me that don't do this, don't do that. This is not right, this is wrong. I think that really helped me, because I've realized I've always had if you tell me something, I will do the exact opposite of what you told me. Why? Because I want to only listen to myself. That was very prominently in I think all creative people have that, where they're like, I have a strong sense of individuality and identity and idea. I will fall. No, I will find it my way. Who are you to tell me? If I am wrong, I will find it my way. I will fall down 10 times and I will realize that, I've made a mistake, but I will realize it my way. Don't tell me. So I grew up in that family also. When I enjoyed my beverage, nobody stopped me from enjoying my beverage. They were like, you do? Let's see how long you enjoy your beverage. So I did my beverage to the point that, I really could have harmed myself. And I've seen how badly it had taken a toll on my body and more than anything, my mental health. My mental health was truly in shambles. When I had gone to college, NIFT, I think a lot of people endure this. I don't know how many people are speaking about this after going to college, when you suddenly fall into a certain lifestyle, because it was a big shift.
Right.
I was eating at whatever time I wanted. I was consuming whatever I wanted. I was just not taking care of my body and health. No physical movement was done ever. And then when my mental health was in shambles, I was questioning, why is it happening? Then it's normal, no? Then depression, anxiety, all of these things become normal, that, okay, everybody has it. It's you're trying to find the cure when you did not take the right steps to have prevented it. You've done everything brick by brick you've laid down the foundation for that depression to enter your body.
Depression only.
It has. I have cultivated it. I have invited, come to my house, absolutely destroy me. I have done that to myself. Nobody else. I have personally laid down all the steps, and then it did. When it arrived, then I shouldn't be so shocked that why am I feeling this way. I did everything brick by brick to do that to myself. Nobody else does that to you. You've done that to yourself. Once again, that responsibility also, it's a very big thing in engineering also. Whatever things in your life, if you start taking a little more responsibility of like what is happening, and like maybe somewhere you've caused it to yourself. Like if you can like look at it in that way, a lot of things started changing. And then, yes, one step at a time, this is how I entered my life and many other things. And then it's just an ongoing process.
It's really interesting. There's this quote by Jiddu Krishnamurti that truth is a pathless land. It's really interesting how certain things that didn't seem instinctively meditative to you might have seemed meditative or spiritual to me. And it's interesting how we arrive at, I don't want to say the same, but similar points, because what is same, right? What is same? You can't really, I mean, it's very difficult to explain reality in and of itself. But it's really interesting how people draw uncannily similar conclusions about how they experience life or how they orient towards life through very different paths, even though they've chosen very different paths.
I really find it interesting what you mentioned about how Sadhguru asked you to flip your perception in the other way around, wherein you shouldn't try to fit the universe in your logic, but rather your logic should try and understand the universe better. Well, I was just thinking about it the other day, and how you said about you get like a certain set of answers, right? Just readily given to you. For example, when you look at a tree, we see like a trunk, and then there's a bunch of leaves, and then we call it a tree. But in itself, it is quite a bit of a complex thing. And as we go ahead in life, we start simplifying, because you can't like stop and wonder at everything. But we have, firstly, someone has told me this is a tree, this is the sun, and we have this certain sense of, pre-decided answers to it, ki ye aisa hai. But it might as well would have been that way. Like, patta would have been circle or square, for example, I'm saying. But it is a certain way. So, like, we just go through life with a certain sense of context, and, that's how I think we also catch upon an identity as we go, which is sometimes given to us by others. Sometimes, some of it we keep on carrying even if the circumstances have changed. So I really found that point interesting. So I just wanted to talk a little bit more on that.
I like what Kshitij picked up on, because it's interesting how the whole idea of pattern recognition, I like how you mapped that onto something that you see around you, and then it's mapped onto something a bit more abstract like identity. You like recognize what sort of identities garner, let's say, praise, or what sort of identities are not accepted, or you arbitrarily adopt, let's say, a certain identity that you are inclined with, and there is not much questioning that goes on to why you are inclined in that direction, or why that identity or why that particular attribute in and of itself is appreciated or valued. Like, that sort of a line of questioning is something that I don't think people undertake enough. So I like how you caught onto that. Interesting.
I like how so much of the identity, I'm diverging a bit, but I just find this point interesting, that so much of identity is also culturally given to you and like even really based on if you on your geographical locations as well. Because
Oh,
what you
yeah.
mentioned about Mumbai, right? When you come to Mumbai, it's like everyone wants to go a bit beyond, right? And so you do see that in everything that they, people, the way they live their lives, how their day is scheduled. For example, whenever I would go a bit out of Mumbai to visit my relatives, I would find that the pace is so different from what you generally experience. That as someone living in Mumbai, you're like, oh, like why aren't you guys moving fast? Even though we get the same set of 24 hours, it feels like it's very slow. I
Yeah.
recently visited Delhi, and first of all, there are so many parks in Delhi, and I could find that there was like people were really indulgent in leisure, which I really don't get to see in Mumbai at all. For example, I just saw a family there. They were having a mini picnic. They had a bunch of photo albums and they were just like going through it. I can't imagine a family in Mumbai doing this, you know. And yeah, I really, really find this interesting as to how your values also differ according to all these factors. Coming back to our discussion, I want to ask you a technical question. So you mentioned you started by doing in-year engineering and also you joined a few of their online sessions. So I wanted to understand how, let's say someone is really curious about Isha, what would you suggest as to how they start their journey with it and what are some of the entry points into it and what is the structure like? How does it go ahead? Also, I have a not so technical question, and that is, what does it mean to advance spiritually as you go ahead into this?
Okay. So to answer your first question, see, it's a very basic. There's a flagship program which is called Inner Engineering. So that is what you start off with. And it's a sort of like it eases you into it in one way also. The structure is such that it's like a 7 series of discourses with him. Like because a very powerful yogic tool is being handed to you, which is Shambhavi Mahamudra Kriya, which is very effective in many ways. Now to handle a tool, which is again, like they say, if you hand over somebody a knife, now you can use it to cut vegetables also, you can use it to hurt yourself also. It's a good tool, right? So now whenever a good tool is being placed into your hands, you should have your foundation right as well. So inner engineering is the program which sort of sets your tools very correctly in terms of you won't have a problem with your own body and mind anymore. That's not a trouble. I think that is one trouble that you're trying to do away with. So that is a very good starting point. That is the starting point, so as to say. Then if you wish to do the more advanced programs, there are many advanced programs that you can start off with. If you wish to do Hatha Yoga, that was what my next step was. For me, the next thing that I was looking for was for something for my body. In terms of, okay, that I'm doing this more with my breath, with my energy, all of these things that I don't, again, I'm saying so many things that I've been doing for many, many years now. But I still don't understand when I speak of energy. Yes, I can experience many things. But do I know it to its entirely? No, I don't know what it is. But I'm still doing it because I see many changes that have happened. But then the next step that I did or I undertook was doing yogasanas. There are many different programs that you can do in Hatha Yoga as well. So I did a yogasanas program almost 6 months after I'd done inner engineering. Then I had attended a sort of there was a particular consecration program that was happening in the Bangalore ashram. So there are many, many different ashrams which are coming up that I had attended in the Bangalore ashram. It was called the Yogeshwara Linga consecration. After that, I had gone for Mahashivratri to the ashram. After Mahashivratri, I don't know, something like absolutely flipped for me in my life. That was like a completely like changing point or turning point in my life, for which what happened after that was something which I can't logically fit for myself, because after I had attended Mahashivratri, 1 month later I was going to shift to Bombay because I was starting some work here. But I remember very clearly, it was the 7th or 8th of March, I woke up with a thought, very intense thought, that I have to do the Hatha Yoga teacher training. That happens in the ashram. It's a 5-month residential program, extremely intense program. And just never in my life I have bended my body to this much also. maximum I used to do was walk, or I was like weight training at that point of time. I used to work out a lot. I was doing a lot of strength training. I was doing a lot of these basic workouts, but like I was not particularly flexible, so as to say. I had not done a single day of yoga in my life, apart from the yogasanas that I had learned 6 months ago. And that I was practicing like twice or thrice a week. I was not so regular then. I was practicing. I was doing my Shambhavi every day. Suddenly, this thought of I want to not only do Hatha Yoga, I also want to become a teacher has come from God knows where, but it has come. And I went at it with complete this. I've digressed a little from the question. I will come to this particular part later, but just end it there in terms of inner engineering would be a good gateway. If you think, okay, I don't have the time right now, you can start off maybe with the book. There's an inner engineering book, or I would just recommend, I would really, really recommend you do the inner engineering program, because the way it is designed is the first 7 discourses, you can do it from your phone. You just need a space. If you can create a committed space for yourself where there's no disturbance, that would be the most ideal, so that you can imbibe it well. If you're doing it on the go, then you might be able to imbibe it depending on your level of concentration, but it's better to have it in an atmosphere which is a more committed space. Then there's the program that the Shambhavi Mahamudra Kriya, which you're initiated into. So I think that would be the first good step. And then advanced programs depends on how much your interests have peaked. And to answer the second part of the question, I really don't have an answer to that. To be honest with you, I don't know what it means to advance spiritually. I don't understand that question, because I still don't understand what is happening in my life. I just realized that every single day, what a lot of the things that I was doing in complete unawareness, I started to grow a little more aware of those things. A lot of the times, I had read this somewhere also, that sometimes your suffering has become even more than how you were suffering. It felt like the life previously that you were living, you were so much more joyful. When I was drinking my beverages, I felt like I was enjoying that a lot, doing great things. It felt fantastic. But I was suffering then also. But I would hide it with many things because I was living in complete unawareness. Can I go back to that same lifestyle? I can never go back to that same lifestyle, because I've tried that once again. It does not, because what it's doing is that the drink is reducing our awareness.
Right.
More than anything, that feeling of intoxication. And why would you not want to live with the same level of exuberance all the time? Why would you want to consume something that is taking away your awareness? That is in many ways, literally, it's reducing from where you are right now.
Right.
People are acting in all sorts of ways because they're trying to be like, okay, how do I get into the next experience? They have also not found that gateway. I would have also probably resorted to the same things if I would not have experienced this. So I don't blame anybody who's doing that, because until and unless you get a taste of this, you can't suddenly drop that. And then what happens is, because you've done it for so long, your compulsions draw you back into that, because after one time, it becomes like a compulsive thing. It's like, okay, let's just do it because this setting, let's just do it that setting. Once you really consciously look at it, that once you take that sip, my body really doesn't like the taste of it.
Yeah.
Over a period of time, when I've done it, okay, my body is enjoying. Okay, my body is feeling like it's, throwing out the smell. Why? Because your body doesn't naturally want that. Why can't I walk straight? Why is my brain not functioning the way it, nobody trusts a drunk pilot. Why? If you knew that your pilot who's going to drive your, or your car is drunk, would you trust him? No. Why won't you trust him? Because you know he's not in his senses. You know that. But no, don't care about that when you are experiencing or you're going through the same experience. You're like, yeah, okay, fair. One night, and then becomes 2 nights, then becomes, in many ways, you're trying to reduce yourself. Why would you try to reduce yourself when you're looking in truth for experiences that enhances you? So once you sort of step back and be like, okay, this is it. I want to actively take a step. Other things in life, you don't always have to make a decision. If it naturally falls off, naturally falls off. Do your experimentation, but at least experiment. At least do that experimentation. Give yourself that much chance that, okay, let me try this out. Let me see if this works or not. If it doesn't work, drop it. I say drop it if it doesn't work. Because I've seen everybody has used it, it has worked. If it doesn't work for you, drop it. But at least use it. At least experiment with it.
So I wanted to ask one more technical question. So yoga, I feel like a lot of times is used as a blanket term, and there are a lot more nuances and layers to it that is not generally known. For example, you specifically mentioned that you took a Hatha Yoga course, right? Could you elaborate a bit on what are the different types of yoga that one could kind of practice or start reading about? And was it something about the discipline, the physicality, or the inner stillness that resonated with you when you started practicing Hatha Yoga or selected it? I know that you did wake up with the thought that you want to do this, but at the same time, like, was it something that you've read about it that, pushed you into specifically going into that direction? And yeah, like, I'd love if you could shed light on different types of yoga.
And also, why specifically Hatha Yoga? Why
Yeah.
did you choose that specifically?
Right. So I remember initially when I had done my first Hatha Yoga class, which was yogasanas, the practice that I was referring to, yogasanas. I remember there's a certain asana that we sit in when we normally do our practices also. It's called Ardha Siddhasana. When you start off with, it's a moderately difficult asana to sit in. So after 15 minutes, your leg starts hurting, your knee starts hurting, you want to stretch your legs, you want to move your hips, you're not settled. So when I'd gone to do the yogasanas program, I saw the teacher. She very nicely, very like this small petite woman from Kolkata, she came, she just sat down and she had a very strange, I don't know how to explain this word, very settled. Her face looked settled, and she just sat there for 2.5 hours in Ardha Siddhasana, unmoving. She just sat there nicely, didn't move, wasn't flinching, wasn't fixing her hair, wasn't fixing her clothes, wasn't doing these, nothing. There was just a stillness in her. And I was just very taken aback by it. Again, not a lot because till that time, I'm not that perceptive of the things. I have just taken a certain liking to her. I don't understand. I see a certain stillness in this individual. And when you see stillness, you're naturally drawn to it. Again, this is our very nature. It's not something, this is also something, a very innate thing, which nature sort of endows you with. So I saw that. And then I was very keen on what this person has done. Then this thing about why Hatha Yoga, let me just break down the word bit again. Yoga, again, just to literally quote Sadhguru, this word particular yoga is also very misunderstood in the world. So yoga, in everywhere in the world, people think that it's like, twisting and turning your body, putting your leg above your head, standing on your head. That is what people think of what yoga is. The word yoga literally means union. Yoga doesn't mean flexible or putting your head on your head, nothing, none of that. The word yoga literally means union. Just to be like in union with you and the universe, And again, this is something that I've heard in concept. Again, is this something that I understand? No. It's like, it's saying like you and the universe is one, the God and you, there's the God in you, all of that. That is what it means by that oneness. But in concept, we don't understand that. But all the sages of the world, all the saints in the world, everybody's saying the same thing. We don't understand that. Now there are many, many paths to experience what that is, what they are speaking of. Now, how to experience that? There are many different paths by which you can reach that same unison or that same idea of what yoga is. Now, there are different paths. There are, say, your Bhakti Yoga, your Karma Yoga, your Kriya Yoga, your Jnana Yoga. Now, all of these are different methods. Now, there are so many different people, so many different individualities. Not everybody would be inclined to do the same thing. For some people, they would like to do selfless work. Just their work will make them reach where they are. For some people, it's just exercising or garnering, not knowledge, but like the wisdom of life. That takes them. So for different people, there are different paths. Now, Hatha Yoga, why was I inclined to Hatha Yoga is I was inclined to Sadhguru. I was inclined to what he was offering. I knew that my life changed entirely from what this person has initially offered me. From this Shambhavi, I've seen tremendous things happen to me. This is a source that I trust. For me, the way I had received what I had received created a very big impact on my life. So I realized that if the tools come from the right place, it will also affect me in a certain way. I realized he was offering and teaching Hatha Yoga in the ashram. It was being offered a certain way. So I didn't even look at anywhere else. For me, if I trust the source and if it's worked for me, it's worked for me. That's it. I don't want to look anywhere else because I don't want to waste that time looking anywhere else. If I've received it here, that's it. Fine, I'll lock in. I will go all the way here, all the way in on this one. I was very one-pointed in that way. Okay, I've received it from him. I want it here itself. If you ask me, I don't have much knowledge about the other schools of yoga also, Ashtanga Yoga, Vinyasa Yoga. I don't know. But the other things that I've known, I have realized what you shouldn't be doing that many other schools of yoga are doing. I'm not saying specifically Ashtanga Yoga, Vinyasa Yoga, all of that I'm not speaking about, but how yoga is being offered in the world. Sadhguru also says that the kind of work that he does is more energy based, which is Kriya Yoga. Shambhavi Mahamudra is also a process where you're taught Kriyas. Many other Kriyas are taught in the advanced programs as well, which are energy based programs that you do. He realized the way Hatha Yoga or any other form of yoga is being offered in the world today, especially in the Western societies, and from the Western societies, how it has also entered India, that in a few years, the same sort of studies or researches that tell you that yoga is extremely beneficial for you, these same studies will tell you that yoga is harmful to you. Why? Because if you do improper yoga, it is far worse than not doing yoga, basically. That is how it's being propagated in the world today. If you see in many different places, they're sort of locking you up, and it's called hot yoga. In many different places, they're locking you up in very like hot rooms, like saunas, and they're making you do yoga there. That should not happen at all. In terms of when we do Hatha Yoga, we are also always told not to do it between like 9 a.m. in the morning till like 3 p.m. in the afternoon, because sun is right overhead. So physiologically, it has many detrimental effects. So forget hot yoga. That is extremely, it does cellular damage. So it's doing far worse to you than good. Then you will see many videos in the world that somebody is doing yoga and there is somebody coming and fixing them, in their bags, stretching their legs. Have you seen that? I'm sure you've seen Instagram reels of somebody holding the back and pushing it up, holding the leg and stretching it more. It's all over the internet as well. And now that's far worse because, for example, when we are taught Hatha Yoga in the world, for example, when we are taught Hatha Yoga in the ashram, it is said that when you're doing Hatha Yoga, there should be nobody in your 3 feet radius. Forget touching you, nobody should even be speaking to you or communicating with you. Why? Because, for example, if you're trying to fix a car, if you're trying to fix any machine, you don't keep the engines on and then you fix it. You turn off everything and then you do it. It's an internal process. First thing is nobody touch you. Nobody touches you. You should not even stretch your body more than the body's capacity. You do what is possible for you. Nobody should be touching you when you're doing yoga. So the way it was taught in the ashram as well, everything, the kind of attention that was paid. And to me also it seemed right that, okay, yes, my body will slowly adjust to it. I should not stretch, if I do it regularly, which I saw, it was in my experience. When I was doing a certain posture for the first time, my hands were not reaching the ground. Why? Because I have not exercised my muscles in that way. It's not reaching the ground. But nobody should come, suddenly pull it one day. It can cause injury. It can cause further physiological problems that you might not understand. 2 weeks of practicing it constantly, consistently. Within no time it was there. Within no time, your body developed the capability to do it. It's as simple as that. For example, a child, when it's going to school, suddenly it's not put in like class 7 or class 8. Go study, go write big essays. No, it's taught the alphabets first. Once its brain sort of like, registers that, okay, this is how it should be done. Once it's fully capable, it'll anyway do it. So you don't stretch it to that and then destroy that possibility that it could have also had. So it's that. I saw how it's taught. I saw how it's offered. Then again, from my own experience also, I have not even tried anything else. I have not tried any other schools of yoga, so I will not speak about it. But what I see regularly on Instagram these days, it looks like a lot of, it's gotten lost somewhere. The science of it has gotten lost in many different places.
See that.
Yeah.
So the next question is something that I ask with a significant amount of care, and it is also the awareness of how, let's say, spiritual egotism can sometimes enter the picture.
Most certainly.
So how has being on the spiritual path influenced your relationships with people from your past or even those in your present who may not exactly share the same values or worldview? I'm not suggesting that one path is better than the other, but I'm curious what kind of inner posture or disposition do you bring into these interactions without your ego getting the better of you?
Right. That simple thing, if you just remind yourself one very basic thing, that in truth, why my seeking also started, that I really don't know anything about anything. I've understood maybe certain things which are working for me currently. But do I really know if this is it? No, I don't know. Then I can't even dismiss that. So who am I to tell them anything? These tools are working for me. I know these tools are working for me. I will tell you the same if these tools work for you. If not, you go your way, I go my way. fantastic. We don't need to have a conflict about it.
Right.
So, and for some strange reason, when I had come back from the ashram also, I started following a certain lifestyle. I started doing certain things. I saw a lot of people around me sort of like tend to take the same things, or to sort of like imbibe those same things, because they saw that, okay, this is an individual that we saw her very differently before.
Right.
And you should never actually go and pitch to anybody that, oh, do this, follow this lifestyle. Just by the way you are, they should take on to and look at you and be like, okay, what is she doing? Or what is he doing? What is different about this? Or why are they joyful in these situations? Or why this is happening, why that is happening? And they should naturally take to it. If not, you work on yourself. You don't go try to fix anybody else. You simply work on yourself. And once you sort of like keep on following these, these are also tools. Once you remind yourself, there is no matter of any sort of clash happening. Because who are you to correct anybody else? Or who are you to tell somebody? If they see that, okay, this is working for you, they will take to it naturally. If it's not working for you only, then, who are you to tell somebody else about it?
Right. And I also think we touched upon this in the beginning of the session when you mentioned that, you are having to, let's say, recalibrate yourself in some ways and remind yourself in some ways about, how, let's say, the situations where you have differences with people, but how can you come to them with a lot of humility? So this brings me to my next question, which is how, now that yoga has become so central to who you are and to your life, where does your art and design practice stand today? Are you teaching yoga full time? And if so, how does that align with, or let's say, support the more modern or practical considerations of everyday?
Okay, what do you mean by modern and practical considerations of everyday?
Let's say sometimes people have to end up doing a 9 to 5 to support, let's say, a spiritual practice. But if someone were to, let's say, do a spiritual practice full time, how would they adopt, or how could they adopt? Or is that something that you are doing? Okay. And how are you adopting that?
Yeah, I underwent the training in 2023. Since 2023, after I finished my training, I have been a full-time Hatha Yoga teacher. I was teaching earlier in Kolkata for 5 months, and I had moved back to the ashram because I really felt like, this is it. My life is in the ashram, and I really felt that, like, I don't feel like I can live in the outside world. There are many differences. Of course, differences happen. I think, draw again from your last question about, like, the differences. Differences happen often at times. I sort of feel that, okay, going back and restructuring myself and setting the grounds again helps me more than trying to get into a battle of this is right or this is wrong. Seeing that, okay, why do I still have this need to put forward my point or their point, whatever it is. In terms of, I've been a full-time teacher, and currently, just to start with, right now I'm in Mumbai, I'm teaching in Mumbai. And see, again, these are simple tools, right? So if you need something, you will find out the time to incorporate, like, again, you wake up in the morning, nobody is asking you to brush, right? But you know that, okay, if you don't brush, you will end up with a stinking mouth. You have to do that for yourself. So once you realize that, okay, if this is a practice that I can inculcate in my normal life, no matter what happens, you will find out the time for it. You will manage a certain time. So there are many different practices that have been designed considering the modern pace of life and what the modern, how you phrase it also, just how a normal person's like 9 to 5 looks like, and how they can incorporate these practices in that particular lifestyle. So there are many practices designed that way. So if you want, you can just, dedicate some time early in the morning, do certain practices, or in the evening after you come back from work. And these are not practices that will these are practices designed to rejuvenate you in many ways and to give you the necessary energy and will to also like go through the whole day with a certain, So I'm sorry, I completely digressed from your question because I went back to your last question. I was still pondering about your last question.
Yeah. So do I repeat myself?
Yes, please.
So now that yoga has become central, where does your art and design practice stand? I think you missed that part of it.
Yes.
And now, like, how does, let's say, yoga support your life in a more practical sense?
Right.
That you already answered. That you already said that you're teaching yoga full time.
Okay, so for my art, I've seen a very distinct shift happening for my own art as well, because these are things that I have also started to become a little more perceptive about, okay, what's changed? Because if that is a medium that you're constantly expressing yourself with, that can't, if you're not the same, the medium which you're expressing in will also not be the same.
Right.
So I have seen, I've observed a lot of my previous works It was very like abstract. It was a lot of like shapes and colors and very like, in its nature, it was very hard in terms of hard objects, hard themes. And now when I see the kind of art that I'm making, the colors have become more subtle, the themes have become more subtle. The kind of things that I enjoy representing or painting has also become very different. The kind of things, again, everything is a certain imitation of some form of nature, right? But what form of nature I want to imitate and cultivate in my work, I've seen a very distinct shift in, because anything that you're painting, you're having to pay attention to that particular thing. Now, what is it that you wish to pay attention to? That object that I wish to pay attention to has changed. Very distinctly, it has changed. I don't wish to pay attention to the same things anymore. Now, a lot of the times I want to, earlier, this is so funny because my father would paint a lot of gods and goddesses, like very recurrent themes of Kali, recurrent themes of Lord Ganesh, recurrent themes of Radha Krishna, a lot of that. And my work was very like abstract and psychedelic and, colorful, hands, legs, all of that. And now when I see that I have started painting the same Radha Krishna, started painting those more subtle themes, I've seen how it's changing, because I think it's again a matter of just simple evolution. That time I didn't enjoy looking at these things. I drew nothing from it, because it was simply that perception had not evolved to whatever point it had evolved now. Now, I don't know what it is, right? I don't understand these themes also. But when the themes that enter my mind are very different now. After spending almost 6 months in the ashram, when I had come back from the training, and a friend of mine had come to pick me up from the airport. In the car, there was a certain music going on and a certain beats. And, it was not like I was not enjoying the music. My body was repelling it. The kind of vibrations that particular song was creating within me, it was not that I was not liking it by the ear. I was repelling it from my body. Because my body was it had become very subtle. In many ways, my experience had become so subtle that anything which was a little more gross, my body was like, okay, not accepted. I don't want to experience this. But 3 or 4 months down the line, when I was staying in home, eating a certain kind of food, because there our diet also was very different. When I started eating differently, when I started consuming different kinds of content again, 3 months down the line, I've started enjoying that same music again. That's when I wanted to step back again. I'm like, okay, somewhere I feel like my practice is dropping again. Somewhere I see that shift happening again. Because it's not something, again, somebody told me. I realized that from my own experience that, okay, this kind of music is not suitable for us. This is causing a certain kind of reaction that, so again, I try to, when I'm doing my paintings, which I do quite a bit, I try to incorporate themes also, which would make me feel meditative also in many ways. So these are the things that I've seen like shift.
I want to go back for a moment. So you're from Kolkata and you've had a nice cultural and artistic influence from that city. Like you've indulged in, that sort of culture there. Then you expressed about your fascination about Mumbai and the energy that, it has. You've spent good while in the ashram as well in Coimbatore. So would you say travel has impacted you as a person, and we do feel or perceive you as someone who loves to travel, at least from what we see on Instagram. But is there a travel experience or a place that you would say that has impacted, Avissruti as a person the most?
See, honestly, I think every place, I don't think I can pin down to one particular place, because every place that and this is a very generic answer, but every place that you travel to, if you genuinely open to a new experience, you will take away something from it. But very recently, it's actually very, very recent, I had gone for the Mahakumbh. And it was my first anything in terms of Kumbh happens every 12 years, every 4 years, like the smaller Kumbhs happen. And it was my first time experiencing Mahakumbh, again because of the hype that was created around it. It was said that it is happening after 144 years. I wanted to experience it. It's, again, if somebody has gone there, done their sadhana, whatever spiritual practices that they do, if they've done it there, they will understand that there is a significance to it, just apart from the Instagram reels that you're seeing, just apart from the hype that is created. Because, see, we live in the ashram. For us to experience something which is bigger than the ashram it's almost difficult, because the ashram is a consecrated place. There's a Dhyanalinga there, there's a Devi temple there, then where we do our yogic practices, that particular space also has been consecrated by Sadhguru. There's the Adi Yogi Linga there. So everything we're experiencing in a certain state of like heightened awareness itself. that is the word I will explain, is there's a constant state of heightened awareness constantly present there. But then to step out of the ashram and go to a certain place where it was a phenomena beyond my understanding for many different reasons also. We've gone through extreme levels of toil and trouble there as well, to enter and to exit out of that place, because we went on one of the most important days. We went on the 29th when also the stampede happened that day. So it was quite something. But that space is really something else. Like when you see India like from that lens and from that frame as well, that there is just so much happening. That, and very recently I also had the chance to, just after Mahakumbh, I had also visited Rishikesh, and that is also one space I would, if I don't know how to explain that particular place. It's really a nice coming together of everything. If somebody, because I used to really enjoy visiting Goa in my earlier days, I found a lot of strange sort of similarities between Goa and Rishikesh in a way that if you want to come there for enjoying the hippie culture, that is there. But if you want to experience the hippie culture involved with people who are actually seeking out for something, that is there. Then there is the Ganga flowing there, which is always, any water body flowing anywhere creates a certain impact always. And then there is the Ganga flowing there. So the space, I really enjoy that space. Apart from that, again, I've lived in the ashram for 2 years. So I think more than any place, the ashram itself, Coimbatore, has created a very significant, it's been very significant.
So I'm trying to bring it all full circle now. So looking back at who you were, let's say in 2018, what were your core values then? And what is your core value now? What does discipline mean to you, especially after your time with a very dedicated, intensive practice? And how has your personal relationship with ambition or success evolved along the way? Or have you entirely done away with those words because that is, again, very societally induced?
So starting from the middle of your question, in terms of what does discipline mean to me? Right now, currently, I think there was a very different definition when I started off initially on this path. But I'll get to that also. But currently, the definition of it is just being sensible and doing what is needed.
Right.
And doing what is needed often at times is misunderstood, because doing what is needed also tending to your body, tending to your mind. It is needed. Every day it is needed.
Right.
So nobody needs to sort of regiment you in a certain way. There should be no set prescription that, okay, today I have to do this, today I have to do that. But just to have a sense that, okay, this is what is needed. This is what is needed to be done, and simply doing that. That is what I think discipline is. Again, often at times this question comes up to Sadhguru, that, Sadhguru, that how do we maintain our time? How do we be disciplined in a way that how do we do our sadhana every day? And he says this very nice. And I think it's not only for sadhana, this can be put for anything which is important to you in your life, or what you're trying to make you want to do it regularly, which is like, okay, don't do your sadhana every day. It's very boring. Don't do it every day. Okay. And everybody is, surprised that why is he saying that? He wants us to do sadhana every day. Then why is he saying that? And he simply says that just do it today. Because, tomorrow never comes. In reality, you wake up, you go to sleep, it's again today. No matter what happens, it's just a continuous today. So there is no real tomorrow.
Right.
So today when you wake up, then decide that tomorrow you don't have to do. Just today you do your sadhana. Just simply, if you remind yourself that, okay, just today I will do what is needed. Today I will do this.
Right.
And for tomorrow, we'll think about it. Just doing that. And in terms of core values, which I had back in 2018 when I started, or when I even came, I think there was still also, in terms of, there was still a strong sense of, I don't know if value would be a right word. There was just this need or this thing to, okay, I will not compromise anything which comes in the way of my seeking.
Right.
I will, that is something I'm constantly striving for. Enhancement in every possible way. I should not, and I've realized this also, whenever I've gotten too comfortable anywhere, I get uprooted from that place. Wherever, I will not naturally, I think because that natural longing is also there, it happens that whenever I tend to get comfortable in one place, there's a natural uprooting onto a new setting, which will challenge you in many ways, but there will be a direct course of like, okay, this is a course which you can take for your growth.
Right.
And I think that would be a core value, that don't do anything which compromises your growth, or everything should be a striving for enhancement of who you are. In one way or the other, it should be an enhancement of yourself. I think that particular, it never changed. But it just
it's evolved.
It's evolved. The understanding of it is evolved, but that core value still remains the same. And what was the third part of your question?
That was about your relationship with success and ambition.
Right, and ambition, right? So in terms of success and ambition, that is also a very strange sort of flip that had happened, because I was somebody who was extremely materialistically driven. I was very, very ambitious to the point, if I tell you the kind of vision boards I used to make in terms of my... It's hilarious, the kind of wallpapers that I would have, just to be like, okay, I'm manifesting this constantly. I am manifesting this constantly. And I'm so glad that so many things that I wished for actually never came true, because what would I do with those things? Those things, again, this is also a concept of ambition, success. All of these things changed again in my mind when I heard again Sadhguru saying this, that, if you meet, say, a villager, and he says the story that in one particular village somewhere, there is a race that happens between the villagers get together and they have pets. You know what their pets are? They are little cockroaches. Now they have these pets with these particular races, with these particular cockroaches, who will reach the final race line the first. So somebody goes and gets a bigger cockroach. Somebody gets a fatter cockroach who will be able to run that race faster. Now he's asking us that amongst those villagers, what do those villagers desire for? The villagers are desiring for, they wish they had a bigger cockroach, a fatter cockroach, which will help them win the race and which will help them win that money or whatever. Success, fame, social acceptance, whatever's needed. You go to a different village. One person has 2 cows, so their neighbor wants 3 cows. You come to the city. You have this job, your friend has that job, so you want that bigger promotion and that bigger job. That car, so you want a different car. Or maybe you don't have those needs. But anything that you desire for, any success that you desire for, any ambition that you have, are also exaggerated versions of somebody else's dream or somebody else's fulfilled dream that you think is your dream, again, because of your social conditioning. The things that you want today, Harini, are not the things that you innately want. It is a desire, it is a sort of conditioning of the society that you've grown up with. Then the society that you changed from your society, you came to a new society, you mixed with 10 people, their desires sort of entered and became a culmination, not a culmination, what's the word? Sort of like a coming together of all the desires together. And then you decided that, okay, I will make this into my desire. So what can you truly desire of? Everything's just an exaggerated version of what you know. And in that process of wishing for that one thing which is just a little bit more exaggerated than what somebody else has fulfilled, you are not keeping any scope for any new thing to happen in your life.
Right.
For me, Hatha Yoga and teacher training, all of that was I could have never even thought that. I could have not thought that because I had no orientation towards it, nobody that I knew, and many other things that I've through the course of the last 2 or 3 years because of certain practices that I've gone through, certain programs that I've gone through, beyond my imagination. How can you even desire for something that you can't even imagine? That's that was the starting point. That you can only desire for something that you have a little bit of inclination towards or even a little knowledge of.
Right.
How can you even desire of something that you have no perception of? And in constantly desiring for the limited things that you know, you eliminate all the possibilities that could have been a possibility for you. So right now in my life, it's that striving of that everyday striving. Let today be like this. Let today be... So I should be able to have gone past all my limitations and ideas that I've had for myself. If I achieve this much today, then we'll see what possibility comes out tomorrow. So I'm not... That idea of ambition has shifted, that what can I even truly desire for? That anything that I can truly desire for is just this much in the larger scope of things that I have received in the past 3 years. So let it be an open possibility. Let it be an open possibility of whatever happens. It's not taking away responsibility from today, that I will not do this today because I don't know what happens. You do what is needed and what you know today. And then tomorrow we'll see in terms of what possibility comes up. So that is how, and in terms of success, that idea of success is also very different because when I did certain things to fulfill my materialistic goals, I told you, right? I did this job. Within 15 days, I got this big sum of money. I bought 3 pairs of boots and 3 pairs of shoes. I was very fascinated by shoes that time. I bought shoes. I bought this, that. I've never worn those pair of shoes. Trust me, till this day, I'm wearing flats. I've never worn those pair of heels. They're still locked up somewhere. I've given 2 to my sisters. I've never even looked at them. Once I, sort of spent my money on the materialistic goals that I wished for myself, I was like, now what? Now what? Why am I still not fulfilled? I thought this is going to give me that big joy. Why is it not doing that for me? But then when I sort of realized, I went to the ashram, just the simple act of somebody else is preparing food, okay? In the ashram, almost 15,000 to 20,000 people are eating for free every day. There's Annadanam happening every day. There's some people who are working from 4 in the morning, they're sevadars who are cutting vegetables, preparing food. We are going there. Some days we're doing some sort of seva. One day my seva is just serving food. I am serving food. Somebody is sitting with their hands like joined and doing namaskar. I'm like, I have prepared the food for them. I'm like, somebody else has prepared food. I am just serving to you and you're so grateful towards me. And that feeling of their gratitude is creating more fulfillment than any paycheck ever has. When I'm sitting there teaching Hatha Yoga, being like, okay, am I a Hatha Yogi? No, I'm an aspiring Hatha Yogi.
Right.
I have done 5 months of teacher training. Yes, I have learned certain basics. I've really thrown myself into it. Our training is 1750 hours long, which is the longest anywhere in the world that we've heard of. There are 2-hour teacher training programs, 3-hour teacher training programs, which is 4 days or 5 days. We've done 5 months of residential programs. Because Sadhguru wanted the people who are going out and teaching in the world, they should have sufficient experience. They shouldn't be teachers who've learned somewhere in Rishikesh. I'm not trying to diss anybody, but I am. Like who've learned, yoga for 3 days.
Right.
Turned upside down and they're going out in the world. No, you have sufficient experience of that. You have a sufficient experience of, okay, something has touched you. It has worked for you, only then go out in the world and offer it. If it has not touched you, drop it today. So to be experiencing that, to come back to Kolkata, to be teaching the people, then 3 months later, they are telling me, okay, very recently I met somebody who had taught a certain program and they had a certain program they had to attend, like they were doing theatre somewhere. And they told me that, today morning I woke up and I did yogasanas. Why? I knew I had a hectic day and doing this would help me be balanced all day. This would, just clear up my mind. And just hearing those things that, okay, this is an active tool which is actively helping somebody else. That fulfillment is something else. So now success is that. To be able to give it to as many people as I can, to offer this to as many people, that is success for me. Because I am trying to right now because I don't think I can have a vision which is bigger than what Sadhguru is doing in the world right now, to be even a small part of his vision, because he's done it. He's planned everything that I can plan of, even more, laid the ground. Now it is about how much I can throw myself in it, how much can I involve myself with this work. So if I can reach out to as many people that I can in my own ways, that would be success for me. Those numbers would be a success.
So it's possible that if you feel this next question would be repetitive and if you don't want to answer, if you think what you've already said so far has touched upon it, the question is, what do you feel is often misunderstood about the spiritual path, especially from someone outside looking in? And if there's a message or a feeling that you carry from your practice or your Hatha Yoga training that you wish more people truly understood.
So I can link it back to something that I said initially in terms of when I was taking onto this path, even when I was going to the ashram. My parents asked me this, that why now? Why now in terms of you have so much life to live, you're just 24, why do you want to take onto this path now? And it was this simple, I questioned them that you've lived so many years of your life. Are you feeling fulfilled? No, you're still striving for that next thing and next thing. When does this next thing end? After 10 years, suddenly you're struggling through 10 medical disorders. You are having like big medical bills and you find that is the end of life. Is that what you wanted to do? All your life work, then in the last few years, you've taken it. Now I've approached 60, that means I will have diabetes, I will have this, I will have that, I will have migraine. That's it. Now all the money that I've saved up all this life will go for my medical bills. I will pay for my medical insurance, that is it. Is this what you were living your life for? Then they had no answer. I was like, what will I do? In terms of if I follow the natural course of what life is expected, I will get that next job. Then, okay, I secure that next job. Then I will get that next promotion. I will get a new paycheck. Then probably I will buy that new house, pay, EMI on that house for the next 15 years, get that new car again, pay loan for that for the next, whatever. Like get the next thing. After all this chasing at the end of your life, that is it. So this particular idea that anything spiritual, because we also come from India, right? We also come from a culture where there was a culture of like grihastha. There was, then you go to the, to the forest, then there is sannyasa. I'm forgetting what it is called after grihastha. Vanaprastha, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, then Sannyasa. So there was a natural, this we have in the Indian culture, that this was a natural thing. People also look towards anything spiritual at the end of their life. But then when should this longing comes? At a time when you're almost like physically handicapped, or when you have the sufficient energy to do something about it. Because again, simple pattern recognition. If you just look around, if you see that everybody is doing the same thing, everybody is going through the same problems in different ways. Somebody is going, same problems. Somebody's having financial problems. People who are like earning more are having more tax problems. People who are earning less are thinking about, somebody's having money problems. People are having the same relationship problems. Everywhere it's the same struggles. Human problems are innately very the same. The scale of it and the nature of it just like exaggerates or diminishes depending on the social setting you are in. But initially the nature of the problem is the same. So if you just do simple pattern recognition and be like, okay, everybody is going through the same problems, then what is it? What is more to this? And then you take a step back and be like, okay, I have to start at this particular point of time because this feels right. This is when my longing has come, and then be like, okay, this is it. Once I've seen what the nature of life, a certain basic understanding or idea you've gotten, and then you just go full throttle with it. That's it. That's simply the kind of questions that I was facing initially. Just this simple, another thing in terms of what people think the idea of spirituality. One, that it should be at a later stage in your life. Then another thing is a lot of people think that, okay, if you're spiritual, a lot of accusations that Sadhguru gets, right? Sadhguru is a businessman. More than a spiritual leader, he's a businessman. And then if you're so spiritual, why are you dressed a certain way? Why do you look a certain way? Why shouldn't you be in simple clothing? Yes, you can do many things. Again, he gets accused of like, why are you driving this car? Why are you riding this bike? He's like, because this is what is available. This is what is available. And the thing is, why not business? In terms of, if I come with a begging bowl to you, in today's generation, if I come with a begging bowl to you, you will be like, earn your own money. You're sufficiently capable. You're sufficiently enabled to be earning your own money. When I'm earning my own money, then why are you questioning? And the thing is, so much questioning happens to the ashram. People should actually come to the ashram and see how many non-profit programs are actually being offered. That they are seeing in the business side of it. They are not seeing where the money is being utilized. Where recently, as a part of, because I was a Hatha Yoga teacher with the ashram also, I used to teach to their rural schools. It's called Isha Vidya. Isha Vidya, there are over 9 schools in Tamil Nadu, if not more, in the remotest place that you might have not even heard of. Many different places. You must have heard of Erode, then Dharmapuri if you visited. Yes. Tamil Nadu, Salem, different small, and even smaller villages. These are still places that you know of. And I was visiting these schools. We were camping from one school to another. These villages are, these schools are placed in some remote like village and like in the middle of nowhere. Like the school's just right in the center. And these are first generation school going children. Like they come from, like the people of the ashram, they reached out to the families of these children, where some have lost their parents to like, some have committed suicide. Some people come from extremely parents who like, extreme situations, and their students have been brought in and been given the most finest of education. They can speak English fluently better than most people that I've seen in like schools here in the cities. Right. I'm talking about. Their children are more forward and speak about like things confidently. And when you see the kind of things, and these are children who are getting the education for free. Thousands of children who are getting the education for free. All their meals are for free. Their meals are like the top class food in terms of sattvic food, well prepared. They're getting fed there. The number of people who are being fed for, I'm not saying fed for free, but technically they're being fed for free in the ashram. They're being offered fruit, annadanam for whoever's coming to the ashram. Thousands of people are coming to the ashram every day. And these are some basic things that I'm talking about. There's so many like, I'm sure you must have heard of the soil rejuvenation program that was happening last year. The campaign, that Save Soil campaign that Sadhguru did last year. So many different programs are happening on the cost of this business that is being spoken about. So when you align yourself with this, I'm not even sure as to why I entered this particular tangent, but I will still continue speaking on it because I find this very important. Again, the particular campaign that happened last year. Right now, it is being said that there is a particular mental health pandemic that is going on in the world. And not now. The medical general of the United States has said this. It has been announced that there is a mental health pandemic going on. That means that every 1 out of 2 people in the world have said that they are struggling out of loneliness. And that is a weird statistic to have, right? And what does a mental health pandemic also mean? That tomorrow also you might get it. That tonight you are fine, but tomorrow morning you're susceptible to getting, or you might have some mental health problem. And a lot of that is not only a condition of your setting, a condition of what you've gone through, but so much of it is linked with your gut health as well. So much. Right. Again, why is your gut health not good today? Because your soil is not well. If your soil is not well, of course, it will not create the sufficient nutrients which will enter your food and as a result, enter your gut. So all of these things are happening. And for this to happen, a lot of commerce is required, which is being generated for whatever reasons it's being generated. Now for that, many different things have to be done. For that, you have to present yourself a certain way, earn a certain attention for those causes. So again, spirituality has that idea that you have to dress up a certain way, you have to talk a certain way, you can't be social, you can't be seen in these programs. Why is Sadhguru being shown in these big programs? Isn't he spiritual? No, he's doing all of those things, and he says it also. He's doing the road show because he needs to garner the wealth.
Right.
Again, today I can't be sitting here like this and speaking a certain language. Again, a certain misconception that people have of spirituality, that, oh, you're doing this, are you still partying, are you still doing all of these things? Maybe once in a while, yes. Maybe once in a while I enjoy to I would enjoy to go and have a late night once in a while. You have a correct balance of all of those things. Again, at the very root, you enjoy and you remember what your true, that last aim is, your last goal is, what are you aspiring for? Remember all of those things, these misconceptions fall away. And I've seen this fade away also, one step at a time. I've seen, genuinely, I'm saying this, there's so many people in the ashram who are of the same age bracket as we are. Because I feel a lot more people are opening up to this now, because of the internet also. When people get too much too soon, they realize that, okay, none of these things are truly giving us the happiness that we thought that this will. And I see so many people of the same age bracket aspiring for that. So I feel these misconceptions are also falling away slowly.
I feel our generation in specific, I think we've seen a lot too soon, and we are more predisposed to the psychological effects. We feel psychological effects more acutely.
Right.
And we are a bit more aware, and I don't want to call it pop psychology, but sometimes, yes, that ends up being, gateway into something. I mean, it starts somewhere, right? There's a certain, let's say, seedling of awareness. It starts somewhere.
Right.
And I also agree with the fact that commerce you don't have to entirely do away with commerce. Wrong inherently with commerce. I don't think just because you're spiritual, you have to renounce other responsibilities that you have. There is a lot of literature as well on this, and I don't know if you're familiar with Ramdas. Ramdas, who came to India from the US and who was under the tutelage of
Neem
Neem
Karoli
Karoli Baba. Even he says that when he went back, he threw himself back into, let's say, politics, and he threw himself back into voting. And just because someone is spiritual doesn't mean they have to, go perpetually live in the hills or renounce society altogether. You can be working within society and you can still have your own goals, and you can strive towards those goals with the tools that are operating within society. So that is something that I definitely agree with. Kshitij, would you like to go ahead and ask our concluding question?
Yes, I feel like in a lot of ways you've already answered it. But I would like to rephrase it a bit. When you said you're taking every day, like one day at a time, and you said that you don't really agree with the kind of vision boards that you had earlier. So today, do you still have a vision board, or is it a blank canvas right now as to you're still trying to figure out, because you said you don't know the possibilities of what you could desire. So what does it look like for you? What do you see next?
Actually, it would be an extension of my last answer as well, because I feel any vision that I had was very small in terms of let me say that it was a more exclusive process. The vision I had earlier was very me-centric. Now, the vision that I'm starting to have or starting to develop, it's more inclusive.
Right.
It has not completely shifted, but it's a more conscious process, because I know if I keep at it, it will change.
Right.
Where it's not only beneficial for you, but in how many ways it can be beneficial for all the people around you. Because when Sadhguru started, he wanted it to affect all the entire population in the world. When he was touched by something, a certain experience in his life, he wanted everybody to be touched by that same experience.
Right.
When I have been touched by that experience, it's again, when I did inner engineering, it's like you hit a gold mine, but it is a gold mine that you want everybody to have. It's not something that you want yourself to have. Once you realize that joy can be the constant foundation, that, oh, this can be my constant state of being, that I don't need to fall back like this can be my constant state of foundation. And once you're like that, you can build anything on top of that. Once you're in that state, you want everybody to experience that in whatever way possible. And now when we are on the brink of a crisis, again, we are literally on the brink of a crisis in terms of there is an impending mental health pandemic. We are nowhere in terms of an ideal setting. When a situation like that is something that we are expecting, then a lot of work needs to be done. then my vision has to become more resilient. It has to be more of an all-inclusive process where I really have to keep myself aside in many ways and think about, okay, and I've tried. It's not like I've not tried making myself the center of it, where I'm like, okay, my visions, my goals, my desires. And then once I've achieved that, I've realized that there's not much fulfillment to it. Then you want to experiment with the other. When you experiment with the other and you also realize, okay, there is, but your sort of natural ego or natural tendencies sort of push you back. You think about yourself. Why aren't you keeping yourself first? Why aren't you thinking that, okay, this should be done this way? Why aren't you keeping your likes first? You realize there's not much to it. There's not much substance to that. So my vision sort of looks like in a way where it is fulfilling his bigger vision right now, where he wants this particular process to affect all, how many ever, 7 billion lives, where he's created a certain app, which we are speaking of a lot also. It's called the Miracle of Mind. It's a free app. It's a free meditation app, and it's an app which is going to be free for everybody, where he's saying just sit down with your eyes closed for 7 minutes, because you don't realize the impact. If 7 billion people today sit down with their eyes closed for 7 minutes, the world will change. It will truly change with a strong thought, because all thoughts are at the end of the day some sort of vibrations, where if everybody sits down with one thought that, okay, and create that vibration of peace, joy, whatever it is, the world will be a different place. So it's my vision of like taking that particular word, it's taking that word outside and reaching to as many people that I can.
I think a concluding quote that I would like to include. It reminds me of this quote by Blaise Pascal. If I remember correctly, all of society's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone.
Mm-hmm.
So,
There's a quote written just above me, because I have a whiteboard here and we change the quotes every day. There's some small practice that we do. We write Sadhguru's quotes on it every day. And it says, you are just a speck of dust in the universe. If you understand the context of your existence, you will naturally become silent.
that's
I
an
think that's,
interesting note to end
yes.
today's session.
I think, I hope this episode, when, our listeners go through it, they don't just get some answers, but, are left with more questions. I love the nature of our conversation that we had today. Thank you so much, Avissruti. We touched upon a lot of
Thank you
more
so
topics
much.
than we, have noted down here. And I also love the fact of how, if you were not to stop yourself, you would have answered all of our questions in one go. Start me. We can really see some psychic abilities getting developed. So that's amazing.
Thank
So
you
yeah,
so much for your time, Avissruti. It was lovely speaking with you, and I hope our viewers also like it when this episode is out.
and
And
yes, we'll see
It
you
was
again
wonderful,
in the
guys. It
next
was
episode.
wonderful catching up with you all as well.
lovely.
Thank you so much.